Welcome to our weekly roundup of key economic and business developments in Sri Lanka. I'm Nishani Pigera, and here are this week's top stories. IMF says Sri Lanka-China debt deal, positive step towards debt restructuring. Tourist arrivals in the first 19 days of November reached 96,329, $110 million FTA into fuel retail market. In our main story this week, Peter Broer, IMF Senior Mission Chief for Sri Lanka, said that an agreement in principle with China's Exim Bank was positive, adding that the lending agency is ready to move forward with the first program review as soon as financing assurances from all official creditors are in place. Meanwhile, Mahinda Siriwardana, Treasury Secretary, said this week that Sri Lanka had given all creditor groups restructuring scenarios to achieve debt reduction targets. He said that it is now up to external creditors to discuss an agreement with the Sri Lankan authorities. According to news sources, the IMF Executive Board is slated to meet on the 6th of December to consider disbursement of the second IMF tranche to Sri Lanka, amounting to approximately $330 million. On Monday, the Cabinet approved the proposed electricity sector reform bill. According to Power and Energy Minister Kanchana Wijesekara, the new Electricity Act will enable the unbundling of CEB services, restructure the CEB and improve its services. Further, this allows for private sector participation across electricity generation, transmission and distribution. On a related note, Sri Lanka will call for expressions of interest to set up nuclear power plants. This is in line with the government's aim to produce 70% of the country's electricity from renewable sources by 2030. US-based fuel distribution company RM Parks signed a $110 million agreement with the BOI to serve the Sri Lankan petroleum sector in collaboration with Shell plc. The entity will operate 200 fuel stations, taking over 150 franchise fuel stations currently owned by the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation. Mini supermarkets with EV charging facilities will also be operated. Sri Lanka and Thailand will sign a free trade agreement on the 3rd of February next year, according to Minister Bandulu Gunawardena, following 7 rounds of discussions held in recent years. Around 80% of tariff lines will be liberalized over 15 years, while about 5% of tariff lines will be partially freed from year 15 to 18, with the remaining being on a negative list. In our weekly tourism update, tourist arrivals in the first 19 days of November reached 96,329, pushing the yearly total past 1.2 million. Average daily arrivals surged to over 5,000, significantly higher than the 3,500 recorded a month earlier. The primary source market in the month was India, followed by Russia and Germany. Sri Lanka Tourism projects just over 204,000 visitors in November as a result of a series of travel promotions leading to a busy winter season. Condé Nast Traveller listed Sri Lanka's south and central parts among the top 24 best places to visit in 2024. It noted that, rising from economic uncertainty, Sri Lanka's tourism industry is in the midst of a luxury and wellness boom, from its tea-filled highlands to its palm-fringed shores. The upcoming Galle Literary Festival, Gourmet Galle, and recent award-winning Peko Trail were specifically highlighted. Looking at regional tourist destinations, Malaysia is aiming to attract 15.6 million international tourists this year, targeting 2.7 million Indonesian tourists. New airline Transnusa is slated to drive this traffic, providing an alternative for Malaysia-Indonesia travel. The Sri Lanka Convention Bureau launched a 3-year roadmap for MICE tourism. The Bureau has outlined its target for 2026, aiming to generate 20% of tourist arrivals through MICE activities, projecting 11% increase in MICE arrivals from 2023. Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau entered into a MOU with content creator Nuzeri Yasin of Nas Daily. Yasin is slated to create content showcasing Sri Lanka's natural beauty and investment opportunities. And now let's take a look at the weekly movement of the All-Share Price Index and the S&P SL 20 Index at the Colombo Stock Exchange. At the Treasury bill auction held on Wednesday, yields on 91 and 364-day maturities contracted. Bids amounting to 217 billion rupees were received, of which 145 billion were accepted. The Sri Lankan rupee was steady against the dollar this week, with the central bank's indicative mid-spot rate ranging around 327 to 328 rupees. According to Central Bank Governor Nandalal Veerasinghe, Sri Lanka intends to move towards a fully floating exchange rate and that the central bank will no longer have to collect foreign reserves. He added that Sri Lanka would like to see reserves around 3 months of imports, but not large volumes as recommended by the IMF. And with that, we wind up for this week. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel at the link below for regular updates on economic and business developments in Sri Lanka. Until we'll see you again next week, thank you for watching. Stay safe.